Hi, my name is Nurul Watika Biti Kamri and I am from BA 232-2B. So today I would like to do my individual video. I hope you are always in the best of health and doing great. The topic that I choose is in chapter 1, which is Introduction to Records Management. There are 6 definitions of important terms that you need to understand. First, records management. It is a systematic control of all records from their creation or receipt through processing, distribution, organization, storage, and retrieval to their ultimate disposition. Next, storage. It is the placement of records onto a shelf or into a file drawer according to a plan. Then, storage method. It is a systematic way of storing records according to an alphabetic, subject, numeric, geographic, or chronologic plan. Moreover, alphabetic records management. It is a method of storing and arranging records according to the letters of the alphabets. Then, storage procedures. It is a series of steps for the orderly arrangement of records as required by a specific storage method or records management system. And lastly, management. It is a process of using an organization's resources to achieve specific goals through the functions of planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. In addition, records are important to organizations and they require special measure of protection. Those categories falls into 4 types, which are vital records, important records, useful records, and non-essential records. Firstly, vital records. It is necessary for the continuing operation of an organization. It is usually not replaceable and have the highest degree of protection necessary. For example, legal papers, articles of incorporation, or titles to property. Secondly, important records. It assists in performing an organization's business operations, usually replaceable but at a great cost and have the high degree of protection necessary. For example, personnel records, sales records, reports, and contracts. Thirdly, useful records. It is helpful in conducting business operations. It usually replaceable at slight cost and low to medium degree of protection necessary. For example, general correspondence such as letters, memoranda, and faxes. Lastly, non-essential records. It have no predictable value after their initial use. It has the lowest degree of protection necessary. For example, announcement and bulletins to employees, acknowledgements, and routine telephone or email messages. Apart from that, I will explain about the record values and its example. Firstly, administrative value. It is the records that help employees to perform office operations within the firm. For example, handbook and organizational charts. Secondly, fiscal value. It is the records used to document operating funds and other financial process. For example, tax return, invoices, or income statement. Then, legal value. It is the records that provide evidence of business transactions. For example, contracts, deeds to property owned, and articles of incorporation. And lastly, historical value. It is the records that document the organizations and major shift of direction over the years. For example, minutes of meeting and corporate charter. For general information, the evidence refers to indication, sign, testimony in support of conclusion. Before I explain in details about the evidence that provided by the records, it is essential to us to know about the importance of keeping the evidentiary value document. I will explain to you why organization keeps their records. Firstly, conduct business in an orderly, efficient, and accountable manner. Secondly, provide continuity in the delivery of services. Number 3, provide continuity in the event of a disaster. Number 4, maintain the corporate personal or collective memory. And then number 5, deliver care and services in a consistent and equitable manner. I will explain to you about the characteristic of records. First, permanence. The recorded information should be permanent so that it can be used as evidence. If the records keep on changing all the times, it cannot be used with certainty to show that something had actually taken place or that someone has been responsible for it. Secondly, the value as official source of information. The records should have authority so that they should be considered to be true, official account or report that will have universal validity as the one true record. Number 3, unique. The records are unique in that they are documents of a single or individual event or transaction that will be repeated in the same time, at the same place, or for the same action. And lastly, authentic. Records are supposed to be authentic in that they document accurately what actually transpired and indicate what was actually the state of affairs at a particular point on time. Record life cycle is the lifespan of a record as expressed in the 5 phases. First phase is creation. It includes the records that are internally produced or received from the external parties. Whenever a letter is produced, a form completed, a cassette tape dictated, or a pamphlet printed, a record is created. Secondly, is distribution. It is where the records are then distributed to the person responsible for their use. Next, use. It is where the records are commonly used for the decision making, documentation or reference, in answering inquiries, or in satisfying legal requirements. Then, maintenance. The records must be stored, which involve preparing and placing the records into their proper storage. Whenever a request is made for a record, it must be retrieved from storage for use. When the retrieved record is no longer needed for active use, it may be restored and protected using appropriate equipment and environment and human controls to ensure the record's security. Lastly, disposition. At the end of the number of years indicated in the retention schedule, the records are disposed of either by destruction or by transfer to permanent storage place. For additional information, the Records Management Program is the systematic and consistent control of all records regardless of the media on which they are held throughout their life cycle. There are 5 key elements of records management. First, meeting business and client needs. It is where when the owning a business will require to track a significant amount of information such as customers, sales, and inventory. Without a proper records management system, we will definitely lose sight of important business details, which leads to the problem with serving to our customer. Public records legislation. The business owners must demonstrate their accountability by providing the evidence and information required for any possible internal and external audit. And number 3, managing records as a valuable and expensive asset. Records is important for the business to make decision or planning. Also, proper records management helps to plan the future of the business too. Number 4, the accountability for practice and service provision. Staying informed of customers, their orders, and the inventory to provide for their purchase is challenging. Without the proper record-keeping system, the tracking important details of your business may be impossible. Lastly, accountability of information and services. Ensure the availability of credible and authoritative evidence to protect the rights of the organization, its staff, and anyone else affected by its activities. I will proceed with the records management function. First, planning. It involves establishing goals or objectives and the method required to achieve them. Number 2, organizing. It is a step that calls for arranging the tasks, people, and other resources needed to meet the goals set in the planning stage. Number 3, leading. It refers to the managerial behaviors such as training, supervising, and motivating that support the achievement of an organization's goal. And lastly, controlling. It means measuring how well the goals have been made. Not to forget, I will explain to you about the goals of the Records Management Program as stated by Rosnah Johari. Firstly, to provide accurate, timely information whenever and whatever it is needed. Secondly, to provide information at the lowest possible cost. Next, to protect information by designing and implementing effective measures for records control. Then, to determine methods for evaluating all phases of the records and information management program, and lastly, to train company personnel in the most effective method of controlling and using records. Now, I will talk about the features of records management program. First, well-defined goals that understood by all workers. A simple and sound organizational plan where it has the two types of records management, which are centralized and decentralized. Centralized means records are physically located and controlled in one area. Decentralized is where the records are physically located in the departments where they are created and used. After that, efficient procedures for managing each of the 5 phases in the records life cycle. The organizations must clearly define the elements of the program to achieve the objective or goals of a records management program. And lastly, a well-trained staff. Managerial level, top position is the records manager who is responsible for directing the entire program. Supervisory level, which includes specialists responsible for operating the record center, supervising the design and use of business form, and directing the creation and use of microfilm records. Lastly, operating level, it includes those workers responsible for routine filing and retrieving tasks and assisting with vital records and records retention work. The Records Management Policy. First, outline the role of the records management. Second, define roles and responsibility within the organization. Third, provide a framework. And lastly, indicate the way in which compliance with the policy and standards. Now, I will cover about the problem in record system. Number 1, management. No overall plan for managing records problem. No plan for retaining or destroying records. Number 2, human problem. Hoarding of records. Lack of concern about importance of records. Number 3, inefficient filing procedures. Failure to protect records. Overloaded and poorly labeled drawers and folders. Number 4, poor use of equipment. No equipment standards. No use of fire-resistant equipment. Number 5, inefficient use of space. Crowded working conditions. Poor layout of storage area. And lastly, number 6, excessive records cost. Inefficiency due to above problem. That's all from me. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye!